Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and in this video I'm going to talk about the impact of the Italian annexation of Abyssinia. This is for GCSE history, the course about international relations between the wars. France and the United Kingdom in particular had been caustic in their remarks about the Italian attack on Abyssinia. They said this was clear aggression. Adolf Hitler was cunning enough to praise Mussolini. He was eager to curry favour with Mussolini. He wanted to tempt the Italians away from the Franco-British orbit. The French and British had imposed sanctions on the Italians, though these excluded oil. And they also were not imposed immediately. So the Italians were able to build up stockpiles of whatever it was, or the other products they wanted to buy from France and the UK, before sanctions kicked in. Well, it wasn't just France and the UK, it was the League of Nations in general. But France and the United Kingdom were the two powerful countries in it. Remember, the Soviet Union wasn't in it at that stage, nor indeed was the United States. So the justification for not prohibiting countries from selling oil to the Italians was that the United States would sell it anyway. It may seem a rather thin argument. You might say, but the UK didn't produce any oil in the 30s, which is true, but some British colonies did, such as Malaysia or a little bit Nigeria. Anyway, vitally, the British Empire did not ban Italian ships from using the Suez Canal. Now, the Italians could have sailed around the Cape of Good Hope, but that would have taken much longer and used rather more fuel. So their supplies had been slower in coming. But the French and British wanted to make a significant gesture against the Italians, but not alienate them entirely, because they realised that Italian help could be very useful if there was war against the Third Reich. Nor indeed did they want to totally miss out on business. The Italian navy was large and thought to be formidable, and the Royal Navy was chary about testing its chances of defeating the Italian navy if it came to a war. Anyway, the French did not want another enemy on their southeastern flank if there was another war against Germany. So the Franco-British policy was perhaps the unhappiest sort of compromise. They managed to seriously annoy the Italians without seriously weakening them. So perhaps one shouldn't have sat on the fence. It might have been wiser to go one way or other, either do nothing or actually go to war. So the Stresa front was scrapped. Italy had been in this agreement with France and the UK to prevent German expansion, and the Italians pulled out of it in protest at what London and Paris were doing to them. Italy was not a firm ally of Germany at that stage, so Hitler saw a golden opportunity to drive a wedge between the Italians on one side and the French and British on the others. He turned Mussolini from a hostile leader into a friend, and in this he succeeded. So the Germans and Italians made the Rome-Berlin axis, as in a line between them. There's an agreement. They'd already signed the Anti-Comintern pact a few years ago, including Japan. They upgraded this to the Pact of Steel, as in it was that firm. It was an even stronger statement of cooperation between the two governments. They didn't actually obligate them to go to war on each other's behalf. So, as a consequence of the Great Depression and the annexation of Abyssinia, Italy got from being a peacemaker to being a warmonger. The Italians, having conquered Abyssinia in July 1936, they immediately got involved in the Spanish Civil War, but I shan't get mired in that, as it's beyond the purview of this course. So Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Abyssinia, fled. He got to the League of Nations at Geneva, and he prepared to make his oration there. The Italian press corps jeered him from the gallery. They hooted that he was a savage. The League of Nations president of the assembly that day was Nicolae Titulescu, former foreign minister of Romania, and he shouted "À la porte les sauvages," as in savages, to the door, as he had the ushers escort the Italian journalists out. So this was him hitting back at these Italian journalists with the sort of insults they'd flung at Haile Selassie, clearly racially tinged ones. So Titulescu spoke spoke French as his foreign language, French being considerably more important in those days than it is now. Selassie, he warned the League of Nations against their spinelessness. They'd failed to take action over his country being illegally conquered. And he said, "You've set a very perilous example. This precedent will come to haunt you. Us today, you tomorrow." which these turned out to be prophetic words. He then went into exile in Gloucestershire. He later came back, won his country back, but I shan't be going into that. Anyway, that's enough about the repercussions of the Italian annexation of Abyssinia, a country which is today called Ethiopia.